What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube, presented as always by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis, bringing quality and competitive prices to mid-Michigan and all of Michigan. Go to pureoptions.com for the location nearest you. 3 in the Lansing area, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Detroit. And if you go online, you can join their Pure Perks loyalty program. Download their app. I love their loyalty program. I get all their deals sent right to me. My Pure Options experience, what I prefer, what I like, tailored to my email. And it's a great way to interact and know the latest deals. Some great January deals going on. Check them out at pureoptions.com. And our Friday afternoon show, brought to you by our friends at not Front 43. We love Front 43. But it's Firekeepers Casino. Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Great NFL weekend to try out the app. Good college football games obviously going on. Not as much soccer. Last night, if you had the app, you might have taken advantage of Michigan State minus 14 against Washington with the alumni zone last year. Right? Last year they were minus 13 and won by 31 against Penn State on this day. Last night it was minus 14. They won by 34 against Washington. I do not think Vegas is going to be able to keep this game on the table anymore. It's just such a giveaway. And I think it's 8 of the last 9 games now they've covered the spread. They've done so by an average of more than 10 points over the spread in those alumni ISO games. So
yeah, we read your column. Your hot takes, we know.
Thank you. How you doing, brother?
Don't coach my team.
I mean, I felt all of Fred Human.
And we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
So how was the game last night? How was the atmosphere with a blowout? I was wondering about, were you watching the Notre Dame-Penn State game?
I had it
albeit that game was really boring, but
I had it on my phone.
Except for the end. But
yeah, I had it on my phone as long as I could pay attention. It was tough. I don't like that. To me, if you're going to have something as big as the college football playoff semifinals, you should not have other college events on that night.
Like a college basketball. Shut college basketball games
down. Yeah, just take the night off. Right.
Yeah.
You know, this is your college football semifinal. But
it's kind of like when President Carter dies and all of a sudden we don't get mail for some reason. It's like to celebrate.
It's exactly what
Jimmy Carter's wonderful life by going to the mailbox and going, fuck. Right. I forgot about that.
That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. Although I will say this, this is college basketball season. College football has kind of crept into it. Once you get to like January 10th, I mean, college football needs to, it's not your time anymore. So there is that. You could look at it from that perspective, other than college football is paying for all of this. But, yeah, no, it was like that atmosphere is different, man. It is like it's so – you forget what the best of the zone ever was. And I don't blame the kids entirely because, like, Michigan State hasn't been as great as they once were. But there is definitely – and these guys are showing up once a year – a little bit inebriated, happy to do this, and so it's an easier thing to do.
Babysitters are had.
Right.
They have an excuse to let loose.
Yes.
It's a reason, yeah.
Michigan State wins. Everybody gets happy. It's
So you don't think Vegas is going to write this down for next year?
I think you just got to keep riding.
For 25, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, the time Michigan State has the old zone, I think we need to up the point spread.
This is where Vegas doesn't know.
They don't know. They have no idea.
This is where you can beat Vegas.
Shout out Steve Beckman, yeah.
Yeah, Beckman's been all over this. And, it's fun that I'm younger now than half the zone. Can
I get it like a heads up like a week ahead of time, though? Because I kind of had some of my bankroll already tied to things, and I just, throwing 50 on Michigan State last night, I just couldn't. I felt bad for not, taking advantage of it. But if you would have told me a week prior, I do all my like gut feel bets on Mondays now. I got some money tied up. I can't just start firing bets everywhere. I'm more responsible now, Graham. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. And we do urge people to gamble responsibly. But
if I can do it, you can do it. That's what the commercial should be.
I will try to remind you that early in January this is coming. It's a moving target because college kids nowadays get like 6 months off for Christmas. They go to school for 4 weeks times 8, and they get a degree.
I would have thrived.
It's kind of bullshit.
All this time
but yeah,
off.
it's kind of a ridiculous.
Mental
schedule.
health stuff I could have used. Oh my God.
They're not even back in school yet, and I think they get out like at the beginning of April or something like that. I mean, it's like, oh, that's a semester. Call it. Yeah, we learned. Let's go. And half the classes are online, which aren't the same. Like, I don't want to.
What a time to be a young person.
I don't want to get into this tangent, but if I were a boss, I would ask people, how many of your classes were online versus in person? Because
what does that matter?
A real degree is in person.
Why?
I'm not saying I shouldn't say that. Take that back. Fix that in post, for real. I just think at a
real degree.
At a certain age, being in person matters more, and certain types of classes being in person matters more.
Certainly. Yeah, you could break it down to certain classes, but you wouldn't have to say if you've ever taken an online class.
Right. No,
your degree doesn't count.
You might as well, if you're going to
University of Phoenix people are just really pissed off right now.
Well, not only
what are you talking about, Couch? Mine counts.
A lot of places
it's printed on paper.
And if you're better off, or you're just as well off online as you are in some giant lecture hall where the professor doesn't even know you're there with 200 other people. But anyway, I wish I hadn't said that. Like half the things I say on the show, we'll just take that off.
Yeah,
fix that later on.
We'll fix that in post.
Before we get to the Groovy Donut Twitter questions, and I am excited about this show. I think it's. I don't know. I just really liked the questions this week all the way through, and I think it's going to be a fun show. Before we get to those, what we are betting this weekend, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Jason, are you betting anything this weekend? Obviously?
I need your help here.
Okay.
I need your advice. I did it again, and by doing it again, like I just said, I do my bets on Monday, my gut feel Monday, Tuesday kind of bets here, and then we do our picks with Harry. And I forget that I actually did my gut feel picks on Monday. So I have the Packers +4 in my parlay here for my NFL parlay. But I really, truly believe in Jalen Hurts that it's announced that he's going to play on Sunday. So I feel that I felt that before with Kenny Pickett when we were talking through our picks with Harry, that Philadelphia, the Green Bay Packers are done, right? And Philly's going to run, even with Kenny Pickett. Now, I can still cash out. This is a $30 parlay. I have the Packers +4, Pittsburgh Steelers +9.5, and Houston Texans +3. Now that's a $30 parlay that with a $204 payout. It's +581. Yeah. I could cash out right now and get 25. So I lose $5 for being an idiot.
I would cash out because I think you're going to lose all 3 of those legs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's possible. I just want to believe. That's just too many points with that. We talked about it with Harry, but I just feel like that's too many points. But honestly, the other 2 don't bother me because they were gut feel picks. But I really feel I got to cash out now with the Packers. I got to take the Eagles. So
it's up to 5 now.
I can't believe I've done it for two weeks in a row.
Yeah, I
see. 5 doesn't scare me either with Philly now, especially with Jalen Hurts playing. I think Green Bay is just done. So all right, I'm cashing this out then. I got to stop doing that. I got to make sure.
I like a lot of teasers this weekend, naturally, which means I'll lose. But I love teasing down the over for the Commanders Buccaneers to get that at like 43.5. And if you can do that with Buffalo down to 2 against the Broncos and the Ravens down to 3 against the Steelers, you've got a really nice 3-team 7-point teaser. Yeah. Anyway, I like that a lot.
Say it again for the people at home.
Yeah. So Commanders, Buccaneers.
Okay.
The over is 50.5.
Yep.
Tease that down to 43.5.
I like it.
All right. And then you take
betting a nice over. I like it.
Yep. I think that's going to be potentially a shootout. Bills, Broncos. The Bills are a 9-point favorite. That teases it down to 2. And then you throw Baltimore in there at 10. That teases it down to 3 over the Steelers. I just really like those 3.
I hate to say that I actually like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. No betting. You can't bet unders like T was saying last night. Because I was like, ooh, when the score got up there, and I was like, oh, people are sweating because a lot of sharps had the under last night's game, and she's like, why would anybody want to bet the under?
So I started to bet.
I understand that.
I had the under in the Notre Dame Penn State game and an adjusted under and like a teaser, right? And I covered it, but barely. But I got nervous because I thought it was going to go overtime, and then who knows where that over/under ends, And that was my panic. They should not count overtime and over/unders. I don't really understand why they do that. They don't do it in soccer. which is an older.
Yeah, but soccer
betting sport.
blows to gamble on. So I mean,
But it's also an older betting sport. Like, who picked up betting here and didn't realize that was the way it was already done? That's my.
It just sounds gambling related. That could go either way. You're feeling on that.
Yeah.
However the bet happens.
Well, I have the same problem with Major League Baseball. I get to the extra innings, runners on second.
Oh, yeah.
I've been chasing unders
That
all
rule.
day. I'm like, God dang it. All right, here we go. All
Man
right.
on second.
That is what we are betting this weekend, presented by Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Let's dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
All right, Eric Schultz up first, of course. Is this just who MSU is when it comes to making threes? How much do you think their current shooting struggles from deep affect their ceiling?
Well, yeah, I mean, you get to a point where you kind of are what you are, right? You're what, 15 games into the season now? So that's pretty much halfway through the regular season. And the weird thing is, like, I've covered teams that were really challenged shooting the ball. And this team doesn't seem like it from a personnel perspective. Like, you don't walk into a game saying, where are they going to get threes from? Who can shoot? They got a number of guys that can do it. They've got some guy, do they have the pure shooter, the Sean Respert guy? Maybe not. But when you just look at the roster bit by bit, you've got, Jaden Akins has been a 40% guy in his career. Fiddler has really struggled, been better than that. Holloman was a 42% shooter a year ago. Jace Richardson's been really efficient. So it's I think the thing that doesn't limit their ceiling in a given game, in a game-by-game basis, is they very much have the capability of reeling off 10 in a game and shooting 47% as a team, and they've done that a few times. It's just, and I do think they have started to adjust to who they are. I think I talked to Jaden Akins in the locker room Wednesday or Thursday night about this, because early in the year, like, you think back to that Kansas game, he misses a couple shots early. He goes into a shell. It kind of took him out of it. He misses a couple threes. He hit one early too, but he misses a couple threes yesterday. It just doesn't stop him from shooting, doesn't stop him from attacking. And Washington was a team that statistically covers the three-point shot really well and doesn't do other stuff. But yeah, no, at a certain point, I mean, the whole season can go by and you can't say, well, they're a better shooting team because statistically in the past these guys have done it. And then you just are what you are. 15 games in, they're a team that if I were defending them, I would worry more about protecting the rim given their personnel and what they've been able to do. I wouldn't want these guys to get going from three because I think then you got a real problem. But, yeah, you are who you are at a certain point.
Let me ask you about Fiddler. Like, last night, he got, 10 minutes? It seemed like he was, why not in a blowout like that kind of get up some shots, right? I don't mean to coach Izzo's team.
And he made a three, and you could tell when he stepped into it, it was going to be good. It was the way he stepped into it.
So why only 10? I mean, especially in a blowout, maybe get Fiddler out there and,
Well, because
get some good looks.
Whose minutes do you take away? Like last night, I thought.
I don't know. When you're up 30, I mean, are you really taking anyone's minutes, or are you trying to get Frankie Fiddler some confidence?
These guys. I mean, what's interesting about these guys is it is not like they want to remain sharp. And I was, Carson Cooper, heard him talking to somebody yesterday that, I mean, they spent very little time on the game afterward, immediately looked at Northwestern. Like they were trying to remain sharp and then get on to the next thing, because a road game, is
very Bill Belichickian.
It is Bill. But I think when you're winning from the get-go and these feel-good home games, I think Michigan State is doing things that they haven't done in a while in terms of running bad teams out of the gym consistently, or teams that they're better than, at least. And some teams that aren't even bad. Nebraska's not even a bad team, and they demolished them there. And that's a really good part of being a contender. But
beating Ohio State on the road.
Right. Northwestern and Ohio State is a bigger part of that. Like, you got to win those games. And those are teams that you're better than.
I get
but
it.
Can beat
I
you.
know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Fiddler, a couple more shots. That's all it was. I'm not saying we have to forget about everything and move on and this, but
Well, what's interesting, when you look at their 3-point percentages, to Eric's question, so Jaden Akins shooting under 28% on the year, 21 of 76. That's a pretty good sample size to be at that rate. Trey Holloman, who was at 42%, 43% last year, is 20 of 60, 33%. It's a pretty big sample size. Xavier Booker, who fancies himself a shooter, has a pretty good shooting stroke, 10 of 47, 21%. Jace Richardson is the only guy of their shooters, he's 13 of 28, who's above 46%. Everybody else is it's pretty bleak, and Fiddler is 7 of 39, 18%. So, yeah, I mean, at a certain point you get in the year, like, I'm pretty confident that at least one of these guys, maybe two, will have their overall percentage creep up closer to their average, and we'll have a pretty good finish, because it's just unlikely that it's all going to be like this. But right now, that's a pretty good sample size on a lot of guys.
Maybe next, with the departure of A.J. Hogard and Madi Sissoko to the transfer portal, and the addition of capable transfers coming in, has the unconscious philosophy of Izzo changed?
Don't coach my team.
It's a good question. You're talking about two guys you developed, guys in your program, addition by subtraction to some degree, and also addition by addition in the guys you brought in, especially with Zappala, right? And I'm sure there are lessons being learned all the time. And look, he did it with Joey Hauser, did it with Tyson Walker. Like, some of his best players of late have been transfers. It's not like this is completely that. It was mostly the center position and the not wanting to recruit over people that he thought were going to develop there. And to his credit, like, the guy they most feared recruiting over was Jackson Kohler. And look what he's developed into as a rebounder and just a presence. And, I mean, he was really good against Osabar on Thursday night against Washington, went 0 for 8, their star big man. Like,
the $2 million man.
I mean, yeah,
right?
0 for 8. And at least 4 or 5 times you saw Kohler just wall up against him, block him once. He held him off on rebound. He was just really, really good defensively. He only played 17 minutes, Kohler did. Osabar only played 19. But, like, so I understand also the idea that you don't want to give up on the wrong guy too early. You don't want to encourage a guy, especially a guy who's not even from this area, to think, maybe I ought to look elsewhere. Maybe they don't believe in me, and think what they would have lost if they didn't have Kohler rebounding on this team and didn't have him in there. So I get that. But I do think, yeah, if you don't like what you have on your roster, go find it somewhere else. If you don't have the right components on your roster, especially if you're Michigan State, and I do think there ought to be some lessons in that some of the transfers they've landed, not just these guys, but have wound up being really big parts of success, or at least the best that they have on the team.
Next one from Maybe. Who made the defensive mistake that caused Tom Izzo to take the quick timeout for yelling purposes? The broadcast didn't really show it enough to judge.
Yeah, I don't know. I missed where that came from.
And we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
There it is right there.
I was a little surprised he didn't go off on Booker when Booker had the ball stolen and then sort of sauntered into the backcourt and had, you know, and I think he thought it was going to be over and back, or it was just going out of bounds. And anyway, the Washington wound up, I think, getting a 3 out of that possession. And I don't know if he didn't want to kill the good vibes, or just coach every guy differently and whatever. I'm sure today in film they showed him that, but I didn't see it.
Spartan forever next. This MSU basketball team is starting to remind me of the good old days of the Flintstones when we just broke teams mentally. Does this team have that kind of toughness? If not, what will it take to get there? Can they get there? Can we call this the Richardson effect?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing you're seeing is on their home court against teams that are less than them, they have started to really, really put a hurting on people for the most part. The Western Michigan game being the only game of late where they didn't really have that edge to them. And early on, I think those games against Samford and Bowling Green, where they were kind of threatened a little bit and had to figure some things out, I think helped them. I think that's all part of the journey of this team. So I think that component is definitely there. We're going to learn a lot more about these guys when they play Illinois. And I know that's a home game, and I always shit on home games. But that is a team, like, when you start to look at the Big Ten right now, there are 3 teams for sure that I think have the capability of being around in a third weekend, or at least deep into a second weekend of the NCAA tournament. That's Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State. And, you know, we've seen some moments from Wisconsin. We've seen moments from UCLA. There are Purdue maybe in there, but Illinois is a team that, like North Carolina's fallen off a little bit, even though that was an impressive win at the time, and I still think a very important win to this season. They were close against Kansas. They've had good moments, but Illinois will be a test, at least talent, pound for pound type team, where you see them and what it all looks like, and can they clamp down defensively against teams that can really shoot and really cause some problems offensively? Can this continue to travel? But yeah, there's lots of evidence of, like, the mentality yesterday with Akins and Fears especially, I thought was just really spoke to a team that has a chance to have a big year because, it's 36-12, and those two guys were locked in the way they were talking to people they were defending. It's 54-20, and Akins is slapping the floor, and Fears is barking at somebody who missed a defensive assignment. Like there is an edge to them and a focus, and that's leadership, and that's Akins understanding this is his team, and that you talk about a guy who we thought before the year when he was struggling in Spain and when he struggled early might be the guy who was kind of the one that frustrated fans. He's now a guy who may, depending on what this team does, the senior on this team that winds up being sort of a beloved figure for what he helped them do. If you're the leading scorer, even if you're not a superstar, if you're the leading scorer and you're a consistent player and you do what he's giving them on a team that people love, you will be loved for a long time. And Fears is growing into that role of you can just see the elements of Cleaves and some of the other point guards they've had. There's a lot there.
Jake, next, how much do you attribute the Michigan State coaching staff's ability to manage lineups properly and the increased production from the post players to the addition of Sadie Washington? It seems like adding an outsider off of Izzo's tree is reaping dividends, or is it coincidental?
Yeah, you don't know to what degree, but, you can look at this Michigan State team that is obviously different than they've been the last 4 years in terms of the way they're playing, the level of just enjoyment you get watching them.
Is this a different Doug Wojcik this year? Column.
And potential, and you have to look at what's different. And there are elements on the court that are different, right? We just talked about Fears, different point guard. We've talked about the big guys, development or addition of big guys. There are lots of Jace Richardson. There are lots of reasons. But who else is different? It's Sadie Washington, and his, Booker already talked about his work with him and Maui, and helped lead to that game he had there when he broke out against Carolina. And I think Sadie Washington's a good coach. I think a lot of people think he's a good coach, and he's on Michigan State staff, and they've been better, on the inside, with their big men since he's been there. So he deserves some credit. To what degree it's because of him, I don't know, but he definitely is part of the equation.
Nate Rhodes next. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Chris Spielman all getting interviews. How many of them do you lose after this season? Who is most likely gone?
What do you think?
I didn't know Spielman. What's his? I don't even know honestly what his role is.
Somebody wants him as a GM, I'm guessing.
Sure.
Yeah,
maybe.
I can see that.
I don't know. He would be third on the list. I think Aaron Glenn. Honestly, it's pretty much whatever Ben Johnson wants to pick, right?
Yeah.
Out of those jobs. By the way, how many interviews do they have to do? That's got to be exhausting. And then you have to game plan. I know that you have a week off or whatever, but to do that many interviews.
And this is the week they're doing them, right? This is the
right.
The week, yeah. So
I think Aaron Glenn is gone for sure. I just don't know. I just don't know if we offer to pay these guys, if they're willing to, if they love Dan Campbell, they love the environment they're in and love Detroit. I don't know.
Well, the question is, and I think Ben Johnson can be a little choosy. You don't go somewhere where there's no quarterback or prospect of having a quarterback,
correct.
Right? That's pretty obvious. That's
either
how you lose.
one. I wouldn't do that if I were Aaron Glenn.
Right. So that's what I'm saying.
Why would you want to do that?
So
terrible ownership.
Well, look at the jobs that are open, right? And obviously Vrabel's going to go to New England, it seems. So that's one place with a quarterback. You look at the other jobs that are open. Chicago has a quarterback or a young guy that they think is their quarterback.
But you also have to be careful what you wish for. Robert Saleh just interviewed for his old job with the 49ers again. Like, I know that, you say, like, oh, man, these guys want to run their own outfit. But like you said, you have to get into the right fit, the right mold, the right ownership, and everything like that. Or else you're going to be interviewing for your old job back.
Jacksonville may be appealing, depending on what you think of their
with
quarterback
ownership?
situation. Yeah, that's true. Like, and you look at a lot of these
Trevor
jobs,
Lawrence,
I'm going to tell you right now, the next New Orleans Saints coach is going to be fired within 3 years. The next Raiders coach probably fired within 3 years. So if you're Aaron Glenn, you can go be a head coach. I just don't know how
the Raiders have the Tom Brady element now, and I think Mark Davis is going to maybe take a little more hands-off approach, right? So I think it's not as bad as New Orleans. New Orleans is a terrible situation. You wouldn't want to go to that.
I would want to be really careful if I were. Now, if you're Aaron Glenn, your stock may never be higher than right now, too. I understand that, and if you really want to do this,
after that Minnesota game, yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah. If you coach another year, you may not get better offers than you get now. Maybe your stock continues to grow. Maybe a year from now, you're more you're in a seat where like somebody's going to hire you for sure. But I would be.
Or Sheila Hamp starts breaking people off. The redemption. The Ford family redemption.
No salary cap for coaches. The Ford should start paying the Tigers salaries too, just so we can see some people get some Alex Bregman come in.
I wouldn't help that owner if he was set on fire. Pee on him. No. Pat Caverly, they stick you sports writers in the corner of the baseline at Breslin. Seems like a crappy place to see the game. Best and worst places in the Big Ten for writers. Was that a blue muskox you had on last night?
It was a blue muskox.
Who was the person? Someone sent, I don't know where their seats were, but it looked like a long-formed lens picture of someone that appeared to look like you in a flannel, but was very emaciated, like skinnier. So.
Yeah, it's Connor Eargood. He works for the Detroit News. He's a young guy. He actually looks like my Uncle Bruce, a young version of my Uncle Bruce.
Is that a compliment?
I don't know. I mean, it's not negative, but he looks like. How's
Uncle Bruce looking?
Uncle Bruce is a good-looking dude coming out of Cranbrook with Mitt Romney. So it was.
Jesus.
Back in the day. They wore a lot of plaid pants. Still does at the
He's still alive.
Table. He's still alive.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still.
How
alive.
old is he?
77.
Damn.
He's up there still practicing medicine.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
All right. Jebediah Graham.
Oh, so I didn't even answer the question.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just got sorry. It is not a crappy place. It's an incredible place to watch a game from. It is different than.
That would be funny if you just started ripping on it, though.
Yeah. No.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah. No. Being that close to the action is fun, especially in basketball. If it's a sport you understand at a decent enough level. Like football can be challenging down there because you don't see how things are developing and whatever, and you're not down there anyway, so it doesn't really matter. In basketball, I think it helps me see the game and what's happening and why things are happening. You hear things. It's not about your angle as much as you just get you hear conversations. You see little nuances of what people are trying to do. It's a great seat. It's the second best seat in the Big Ten. The best is Illinois, where you're directly behind the scores table at midcourt on the bench side, and you can hear what both benches and both coaches are saying. That's to me the best. But this is the second best, and those are really the only two left in the Big Ten where you're courtside. But like in Maui was courtside. The NCAA tournament, there's courtside.
So who's the worst then? The Big Ten, the expanded Big Ten, I guess.
Minnesota's up in a corner now. Trying to think who's the absolute.
And that at that point, you're just so up in the corner. Do you have it like on your phone, like on the game on your phone as well as if you're that far up?
Sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it's not that. Those aren't horrible. I'm trying to think who's the absolute worst. I mean, Purdue, you're at least dead on sort of mid-court. Michigan's pretty bad. Michigan's up there. And the worst one is when, Michigan will have a season. This hasn't happened that much lately, but where there are like tons of empty seats lower. That's who moved reporters way up ridiculously? Central Michigan. Like you'd have like 4,000 empty seats in front of you, and you're up in the corner, and so that was bad. I'm trying to think if anybody's worse, but I would say Michigan is as bad as it gets in the Big Ten that I've been to, at least.
Jebediah Graham, do you take every dunk that Cohen Carr yams right in front of press row personally after your slander of his game last year?
There was no Cohen Carr slander. This has become a thing.
Coach. That'd be great after a dunk.
It's like it's like pushing a guy down the stairs. That didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Well, there was a shove.
There's not a shove.
Oh.
There's no shove.
You shoved someone, didn't you?
No. This story is taking on a life of its own. It's a story we're telling presented by Midtown
I'm
Brewing
like starting to get this story like different now.
Yeah. No, it's a story we're telling presented by Midtown Brewing Company, but it's the wrong story that's being told right now. So that is not. That is not accurate. Look.
After his free throws, he should talk shit.
Yeah. Having Cohen Carr dunk in front of you and seeing it develop like ahead of time is one of the most enjoyable things of watching basketball there is. Like sometimes you see him make a cut or you see it developing when like he's behind the defense, so the defense doesn't see it, and you're like, oh. And it's pretty
Do you think
sweet.
he takes dunking for granted? Like I feel if I could dunk like that.
How many years off your life would you give to be able to dunk like that?
Right now, I would die tomorrow.
No, for an hour at a pickup game.
Oh, at a pickup game? How many years of my life?
Yeah.
I don't know. The last 10.
Yeah. Well, you'd be dead now probably, but.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
What 10?
Yeah.
What 10 years were you taking? I don't know. 5 years? For only an hour, though?
To be able to show up to one pickup run and just be able to dunk out of your mind like that.
Yeah.
It'd have to be the right people I'd want to impress, too.
Why? It's going to go viral.
I need
a guy like you wearing a fucking flannel, dunking like Cohen Carr. I mean, you're going to be like a national celebrity.
I'd be in a muskox for sure. Boy, that would be part of the whole bit. Maybe I'd really be one of their celebrity models at that point.
And then it wears off, and they see how you really play. Like, what happened to this guy?
It's like
an ass.
Michael J. Fox and Teen Wolf when it becomes the real. Yeah, it's
when he turned into a wolf. No one said anything. I got to watch that again. Mojo Jojo, how will the annexation of the Panama Canal, Greenland, and Canada affect the college football playoff? And how can Jonathan Smith use each to his advantage in recruiting and player development?
What a time to be alive.
It really is.
By the way, I do want to mention that like we have some listeners who are in the LA area, and so I hope you're safe and sound, and we have several of you that I correspond with somewhat regularly. So I hope you're doing well and your family's well and your house is okay. And
well, you correspond with them. Have you checked in? And
a couple I have, but not everybody. And so I hope if you are listening and you're able to, and you don't have more important things going on, reach out. Let us know you're doing okay.
Did you see that David Muir guy? That guy that's on ABC News. He had the clip on his.
Yeah, but hold on. Okay, yes,
it is tight.
Yes,
firefighter
people
jacket
love
he's
to
reporting.
People love to shit on people for part of the job of being a TV news person is looking.
You're defending Muir?
Yes,
unfucking believable.
Yes, apparently lots of people do that all the time. I'm defending Muir for a fire zone.
A fire that's taking out thousands and thousands of acres by the minute, and this guy's plucking his jacket to make it look tighter so it's fit. Dude, Muir's a penis.
I'm not saying he's
you're a penis for defending him.
I'm not saying he's not a penis, and I'm not saying I'm not a penis. What I am saying, though, is that is a trick in television that's done a lot. And people, when you don't look good in TV, people on these phones just rip the shit out of you and call you fat and ugly and everything.
No, they don't.
Bullshit.
Not during that.
Bullshit. Really penis.
Whatever.
Bullshit.
No one's gonna. First of all, no one's talking about Muir.
If we wanted to take the people who are not allowed to work or vote or have children in this country, if we wanted to get that group of people, well, other than you, all we would have to do is we would start with everybody that responds to like female meteorologist on air.
Lord.
That group that tweets at them on how they look would be the first people you just say, you're not allowed to do anything. We are going to put you in a little box and you go do you know.
What's the comment, though? Who are you talking about? Is this it sounds
so
specific.
Awful people. The things they say are awful. If you're on TV, part of your job is to look decent,
Huh. I mean, there's people going after a local weather person around here?
I don't know about around here.
I mean, as far as like, you mean in a demeaning way, or
yes,
like creepily or they're attracted to them, so they have a crush.
Both,
but they're nice, but they have that underlying kind of thing.
Both. The creepy thing is less concerning than the really really nasty stuff that is.
Yeah,
the creepy.
But that's
crush
mostly people that don't have their real name attached.
Again, I'm just saying these are the people we should start with when we make those decisions about who gets to actually like.
I can agree with that. What does this have to do with Muir being a penis in the middle of this fire coverage, and then turns to his right, and then there's that clip on his jacket? It's just like,
well, Muir should have been wearing a muskox because anyone had to worry about this. He would have looked good either way. But part of being on television as a journalist, I mean, these aren't real. Most of these guys aren't real journalists.
No one
anyway.
In that instance is looking for whatever you're wearing to be tight or form-fitting. If you had an unkempt whatever going on your jacket, it was too big. No one's going to be like, look at Muir. Unbelievable.
Fair enough. You say that now, but if Muir had
watched
like
2020, we watched 2020, and I saw Muir. I've seen Muir for years, and I go, that guy's got to be a douche. And it just comes to find out he is. He stares at himself at the gym. I love all the reports coming out now.
Well, all these guys
He's like Zoolander.
All these guys do. Outside of like Chris Eastlick, very few people go into television is to be journalists. They go into TV because they want to be on TV.
True.
That's where it starts, right? They want somebody to look at them. Right, and that's the whole
at a local level. But I understand that you want to look decent. But if you're out in the field, there's just there's times for it, and there's times if you're going on camera in studio, you want to look on point. I understand.
We should ask Eastlick. Eastlick, I would love to know because
he's not Team Muir. There's no way Eastlick is.
I would love to know what he thinks about the Muir, and I would love to see how much shit he gets about appearance and how much shit the women he works with get about their appearance on social media.
Shit.
We want to know.
What does that have to do?
Hot takes episode on Monday. If you could write that stuff in, it'd be great.
But Eastlick, there's no way Eastlick, if he was covering the fire doing the fire coverage, that he would have worried about crimping his jacket to make it look form fitting.
We want to know.
Eastlick would have went right out there into the fire, right? I don't know. I just want to believe it. Sorry.
Just dove into the fire.
I'm just so angry. I'm just so angry that you're defending Muir. Like, how is that possible?
I don't know.
Douche. Mojo Jojo. After Notre Dame's win, who's in bigger shambles right now? James Big Game Franklin or Brian, I want to be in an environment where I have the resources to win a national championship, Kelly? Dude, 1 in 15. 1 in 15 is a number you can't shake.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
James Franklin was in the Final Four.
I don't care.
Right? In a competitive game against a great
But
team.
you know you'll never win.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is.
This year made me think he might actually win. He had a veteran quarterback. And
Yeah,
made
but you
a bad
support
decision.
David Muir, so I don't know where to go with that. I mean, 1 in 15, that you can't deny that those numbers are just wild.
Well, I mean,
against top 5 teams in his career.
We're going to talk about who people support. There are a lot. We have lots of listeners I respect who support somebody I don't respect. I still respect their opinions on sports, so leave me alone on David Muir. Anyway,
I'm just saying, I don't know. I mean, bigger shambles, it's got to be for. I mean,
No,
if you're Penn State, at least Brian Kelly gives me the opportunity.
you were in the Final Four.
So what?
I think that's a big deal.
I don't care. If I'm a Penn State fan, I just know you're not going to win a national championship with them.
I have more faith in the James Franklin program after this year than I did before this year.
So you haven't lost a ton of money on James Franklin coach teams.
I am riding with James Franklin and David Muir, damn it.
Wow, what a ticket. 2028. Mojo Jojo, can Lee Corso finally retire or fade into dust a la Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade after picking the wrong mascot for the 1,000th time? Between him and most of Congress, the boomers have completely forsaken any pass-the-torch grace prior generation set in place.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, what would Herb Street do? I mean, Jesus Christ. He would cry for a week straight.
It's tough. It's like
it isn't tough. It's not
time.
tough.
It's definitely time.
We've watched people do it. Dick Clark did it, and it was embarrassing. It was sad. Like, don't let your loved ones go through this. Have a talk with them. I know it's great to see Lee Corso out there. If you want him to do a tape piece, have him do a tape piece.
I don't know. It just won't be good. Picking the right team is sort of his analysis is way. I mean, you're just hoping he gets through it. He is like he's on the other end of life. You know, with the early weekend anchor and local television where you can't even hear the news because you're just praying they get through it. You're just hoping they get through it.
Kind of like the last president, you know. I mean, I don't. It's your guy. Yep. I don't want to talk about it.
No, it's a fair comment. I mean, he should not have been doing that job at that age.
That's what I mean. It's not like
clear.
You want these people to just hop into a suey pod and go like to heaven. It's like, can't you just not be on TV, or can we do a tape piece to where it's not? You know, can't we just go away? We can't go away. We have to always just be on TV. Mojo, no, Kurt Wisniewski. I cannot stand James Franklin. Why is he still the coach of Penn State? Damn small game James. See what I mean? He's got a nickname now, Small Game James. You can't have your coach have a Small Game James.
He's also got a punchable face demeanor to him. You know, when he talks, he's sort of. I mean, it's just
he looks through you sometimes.
Yeah, he just kind of. I mean, I get if you're not a Penn State, even if you are a Penn State fan, but I get why he rubs people the wrong way. It's his demeanor, and there's nothing he can do about it. It's who he is. You know, it's.
I just like how he's unfireable. Like, there's no way. It's just 1 in 15 in top 5 teams.
Yeah, it's
so the talk of moving on and maybe finding someone that doesn't have that 1 in 15 record.
If you have a Penn State fan in your life or a David Muir fan in your life, this is a good week to get them groovy donuts. I'm telling you right now, it just makes every week better, every weekend better. And this, by the way, the second Friday of the year is the day most people quit their New Year's resolution, which is a good day for a place that makes great donuts. And but I would also say this: make groovy donuts part of your New Year's resolution. Bring more joy to your life because they are producing joy. That's what a groovy donut is. It is the best donut you will ever taste, and you just do it in moderation. But make them part of your routine. You know, for your office, for any gathering you're having. If you want people at work to like you, you show up with a box of groovy donuts. They will like you more, even if you're David Muir, even if you're James Franklin. They will like you more. Go to groovydonuts.com, place your order today, or swing by either location. They're open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and also in Williamson. Again, groovydonuts.com.
Kurt Wisniewski, Commissioner Nick, what would you change to prohibit Graham's pledging and 24 hours later of players leaving before playing a snap in college football? What should we do about Graham repeating the same takes on Twitter that he claims that he doesn't have on his phone anymore, but
I had
somehow seems to find his laptop to tweet out the same?
I had to re-put it on my
7
phone.
takes.
It's back on my phone.
Oh,
it's the worst.
Wait, what?
Yeah. It's
Graham Couch is. Well, you were still on Twitter.
Well, I was on Twitter.
Twitter's back on his phone.
I had to put it back on my phone because it was mostly like hurting the show. My inability to retweet the show account and things, and the course, like it was becoming inefficient with my time. So what I'm trying to do is stay off it, even though it's on my phone. And I will say this to anybody who wants to get Twitter out of their life more, but needs it for work or anything like that, just by going through like a couple weeks without it on my phone, it took me out of the habit of it. It did a really good job of like I'm on it less, which is nice. So it's still
so
served the
deleting
purpose.
it and then re-putting it on your phone helped you get off Twitter.
Help me use it less, yeah, because I got out of the habit of always going to it.
Using it less, meaning that you are still tweeting out your same takes that you've talked about for the past 7 years.
That's not going to change.
But you're using Twitter less.
I'm a one-trick pony in a mid-sized market. This is who I am.
It's just amazing.
It's like it's.
I find it so fascinating because I couldn't do that. With people just like, yeah, we've heard you already, like I do.
I forget that I didn't even make sure everybody's heard it. That's why I tell my wife the same story a seventh time presented by Midtown Brewing Company is that, in case she's forgotten. And in the other, and frankly, it didn't look like she was paying attention the first 6 times. So I don't know that it actually sunk in. To Kurt's question though, what would you do? Like Michigan State just had a guy commit to them, and then de-pledge and wind up at Cal like a few hours later. Yeah. Look, there's nothing you can do when it's just a verbal thing. It's and especially in the transfer portal. It's once they're on campus.
What do you do when there's no rules? Well, you make them sign a piece of paper that they're bound to. I mean,
that eventually there'll be contracts, but this is no different than pro sport. You could have a player who reverses course on deciding Alex Bregman could decide he wants to sign with the Red Sox and then change course and sign with the Tigers until he signs something. There's no. It just
guys don't do that.
It doesn't happen as often. There's no doubt. I don't know what. I think the big thing is you just got to get contracts quicker in hand, and that's what you got to do.
Skylar Verdon. Why does Jason hate Boise State? I'm with Graham. I like smaller schools getting a chance to have the spotlight in the new playoff. Just because they can't win a natty doesn't mean they can't have a memorable season.
Yeah, Jason.
I don't really hate Boise State, but I mean, so they can have a memorable season, so they can be the 12 seed and get blown out. Okay,
yeah,
I guess
it's better.
I mean, I would rather have them in this year than Alabama. Obviously, I'm not one of those people,
right?
So I don't hate Boise State, really.
Again, I think it's one of those things where what is a title and a great season is different to different programs, and at a small place, just getting in is huge, and at some place, just winning a game will be huge, and other people need to get to the Final Four, and other people there will be different sort of levels of it, and I think
will one of those teams ever get to?
I think they will.
The Final Four championship game.
I think they will.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, TCU made it, right? Made the championship game, and TCU is in that.
Well,
realm
I'm saying
not
in this new kind of world of NIL transfer portal kind of.
It
shit.
probably doesn't happen often, but yeah,
with a team like Boise, if they don't have a bunch of money like the Ohio States and others in Oregon.
No,
you see them make a Final Four.
It's hard to see them winning 2 games, but you could see a win, which would be a big deal.
And then you got James Franklin taking up a top 4 spot every year, not winning that thing. Jay Riemenschneider, Michigan football is 5-2 in the last 7 versus MSU, winning 3 in a row with a 49-0 win in there. And truthfully, 7 years is about as far back as these young players and recruits care to remember anyway. So can you never again mention when MSU took control of the rivalry narrative? That's over.
Well, it's true that kids who are being recruited out of high school, although you got to keep in mind you're also recruiting 24-year-olds out of the portal, and they remember. But kids who are being recruited out of high school don't have a memory of 2015 Michigan State or 14 Michigan State. That's for the most part, and that's why you can't let a program fall for more than 5 years. That's why you have to explain to somebody like a Mark D'Antonio when the program's sinking. If it's going to take 3 years to rebuild, you can't have 2 full years to suck at the end of your tenure because the next guy's got to have time to build it. You just can't have these long stretches where you're irrelevant. You can't do it anymore, and you really can't do it ever. It takes away what you once were and the value in that. Now, all of that said, like MSU hockey, for example, hadn't been relevant. I mean, there were generations of people who weren't born the last time they were doing anything. And really quickly with the right coach, they got it going. I think where that narrative still fits, the idea that MSU football took control of the rivalry for a while. And number one, they were pretty much neck and neck through the Mel Tucker era, even with Michigan. But that it can be done is still important, because for 40 years, it didn't seem like that was possible. And so what's possible at Michigan State, both in terms of winning big and in terms of the script of the rivalry, the D'Antonio era showed. And that's something that's still important and still resonates, and it wasn't that long ago.
Next one from Jay. When they both signed, could they have imagined Zappala would be this much more impactful for MSU than Fiddler?
I'll talk about Fiddler in a little bit because we have a couple other questions on him. But with Zappala, I think it's been a little bit of a surprise. Now, they did a good job identifying him. I think they knew he could help them. I think they knew early on when they were starting him in Spain and sort of looked like their guy in that sense. But I don't think, just based on his numbers and his production at Utah State 2 years ago especially, that anybody could have seen this. And I think we also, just based on who Fiddler was, there was no evidence. It's hard to imagine because there's just no evidence of it. And both played at a lower level before.
Next one from Jay. Michigan basketball is number 9 on Bartovic, number 10 on Ken Pom, and number 11 in the net, but 24 in AP poll. Your knock on the poll is justified, but which of these 3 metric sites do you trust most of the time?
Yeah, Michigan is way better than. Now I know the win over UCLA on the road was this week, but I use Ken Pom mostly. I don't use the net hardly at all, other than at the end of the year looking where people are. I use Bartovic some. I don't use it as much as the rankings as I do other numbers and stats. But Ken Pom is my.
So
my
why
main
don't you
go-to.
use the others? You just don't respect it.
No, I respect Bartovic a ton. Bartovic and Ken Pom to me are the two I spend the most time on. But Ken Pom is just the one I just choose to more often. That's all. But both are really good, and I think give you a good advanced metric picture of a team.
Jarrett, how do you think sports gambling has affected college sports, athletes, college campuses? Would there be any rules you would create in regards to gambling on sports?
I don't know. Like, to me,
I mean, how big of a epidemic? I mean, I've heard in high schools it's problematic, but they're not getting on. These younger kids aren't getting on an app, are they?
So the idea in the NCAA is that you can't bet on anything, right? And I don't think that's too much to ask. If you're a college athlete, that you shouldn't be betting on
anything.
Well,
just college athletics.
Because
you bet on the pros.
Here's why. Because say you have the Firekeeper's Eye Casino and Sportsbook app on your phone, and you're a college athlete. It is a slippery slope to, you're betting baseball, and you're a football player.
Yeah.
And then you see your line of your game up there. You're like, oh, what? You know what?
Oh, Jesus.
I know. I'm just saying it's.
I know, but that's after school special level shit. I mean.
I would,
you know what I mean? You're going to give a scenario that's just like, in one of those PSAs you hear on the radio that when you don't have enough ads to play. So you hear that kind of bullshit.
I mean, I do think that.
I can bet on the baseball team.
I do think
I see my number.
What? I think it affects them though. It affects them on what they hear from other people, because when they don't cover spreads, they hear from it. Gambling is everywhere on college campuses, so they hear it from their classmates. They may take part to some degree, even if it's not their sport. I think I would try to keep college athletes away from gambling, period.
But we also act as if it wasn't there. Gambling wasn't around before the apps.
No, and the apps are better now, because now you have a record of all this stuff. Right now, it's police. The apps are better in that sense. Now they make it easier for people, and there are all sorts of addictions. There are going to be people who are in financial ruin, but that's a separate issue. And I do think we need to do more education on gambling and more. In some ways, it's almost better though if you have a bad experience with it young, when you don't have the capital to really screw up your life. Like, my worst bets were made when I had disposable income, and I would not make those bets today. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm grateful for it. I learned those lessons hard. But.
But if you would have hit big right off the get,
I've been in trouble.
Oh man,
yeah, I'd be in a
It's like those young guys back in the early 2000s that hit with poker were hitting like $300,000 scores.
So Again, when you started the Jason Nick sports book,
it was never, my name was not on the title.
It was not on the title.
It was a Jimmy John's shop talk thing that turned into we were going to take money for bet. It was completely stupid.
So there were two.
Had
of
no
you,
idea what we were doing.
There were two of you who were the book, correct?
Correct.
And there are how many people are you taking bets from?
Oh, there's probably 5, 6 dudes. It only lasted like a week and a half, and then I got into that car accident, and then.
Oh, so that was all at the same time, pretty much.
Yeah.
And
I worked at Jimmy John's for like a year, so it all happened real quick. And so like during the sports book enterprise that I was involved in that car accident, the 16-year-old texting while driving, and I was like laid up. I got screwed up big. So
Tales
lost
from
my
Jimmy
car,
John.
lost my place that I lived. It was wild time to be alive.
Tales from Jimmy John's ought to be like
It was a
feature
great
here.
time.
Yeah.
I still talked. Obviously, my Michigan friend Jordan, he worked there with me for a short period of time. JR, my friend JR.
Wait, was
who
he
listens
the
to
other
pod-
guy who did the book with you?
Yeah.
And you guys are the two who got taken.
Well, we didn't get taken. I mean, honestly, it would have ended like car accident or not, because it was not. Obviously, those guys were just colluding and like winning money against us, right? So it didn't. It lasted like a week and a half. So there weren't like these extravagant losses. So thankfully, that 16-year-old texting while driving kind of bailed us out of.
Got you out of whatever. plan you
Yeah,
had.
even though it just ruined my life for years.
Was
but,
there a moment when you came up with a plan where you thought we're going to make some money doing this?
Never.
Okay.
No, I think that because it was the year I think Central beat Michigan State that year. We had such a the opening weekend was such a drubbing that I just was like, I think we were down 1,000 after the first weekend, and I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this. So, just literally had zero idea. So.
That is a story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. If you're looking for a place for a drink after work, a cozy date night in January, it's snowing downtown Lansing right now. It is just an exquisite place. No better place than Midtown Brewing Company for it. Great menu. They've got great comfort foods, but also lighter options. Something for everybody. They do everything they do on their menu really, really well. Good drink selection, including the American Stout. My favorite beer, especially this time of year. Go to Midtown Brewing Company on Facebook. You can check out, their latest, some of their latest specials and menu offerings. They do a good job of showcasing them there. And it's 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing.
Steve Whittico next. Is the travel intensity of the Western Big Ten rearing its ugly head? A rude awakening to traditional Big Ten hoops, or is Michigan State proving it's a great team with room to grow?
I do think a couple things on this. One, the 4 teams in the Pac-12 have not faced the types of environments regularly that they're going to face. It's not that the Pac-12 didn't have good environments for basketball here and there, and Arizona certainly was a beast, and other places could ramp it up. But there were some dead nights. There were more dead nights. There were not nights like you get at Nebraska, for example, or at Michigan State on the Alumni Is-Zone night and things like that. And so there will be more of those nights. The travel is going to be a bear, though. I mean, UCLA goes Nebraska, home for Michigan, cross the country for Maryland, and that stuff's going to add up. And I do think now Michigan State is. We don't know yet if Michigan State's a great team, but they're very good at certain things, and they're better than certain teams, and they're very good at putting a hurt on teams that aren't as good as them, and that we've sort of figured out. And they have some of the components of a great team. But yeah, it's going to be rough on those teams. I think it's going to wear on them over time.
Next one from Steve. How many people show up to a Lions parade? Would Jason be there? Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to be millions, right? If we ever, if it happens.
It would be
it's going to be
parade.
Millions.
Yeah. You would go?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my friend Jordan, he lives in Huntington Woods, so I'd just drive there, and then I think we would just probably, it's like a half-hour drive from there, so we would try to get anywhere near it. I don't know. You have to, absolutely.
I don't love parades.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. It's going to be cold as F. Like, I don't know.
Where do you pee?
I just pee wherever. Like, I don't even think that would be a problem because it's just going to be wild.
So everybody just whips it out and pees.
Yeah, it's just like an open trough.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
I do like
just drop, squat, whip it out.
Yeah, if all Detroit's a trough, I might be.
Dude, if the Lions win the Super Bowl, pee. Just pee wherever. Number 2, find a bush.
Okay.
All right. Steve, have you seen Conclave? Good watch.
I have not. Have you seen it?
I don't know what it is.
Hold on. Let me look it up.
Off.
Cock.
Oh, it gets 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is good.
The
yeah.
audience or the public?
Well, let's let
People.
me click on it. Yeah, let me see what we got here. It's 93% on the tomato meter and 86% on the popcorn meter. So pretty good all around.
So what does that mean? Like, so the critics think it's what?
93.
The critics of the thermometer one?
Yeah, and they got 93, and everybody else has 86. It's still
Who's in
good.
it?
Ralph Fiennes, or is it Fiennes? Yeah, Ralph Fiennes, and he plays Cardinal Lawrence, the Pope.
Oh, Jesus, no way.
Yeah.
I know which one he's talking. Okay, yeah, no thanks.
I'm gonna watch this. I'll see.
I know you would. Yeah, no thanks. Matt C. Graham, would you like to have? Who would you like to have host your roast if you ever did one? I assume Dominic and I would be invited to crack a few jokes. Matt C. I would definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I think Dominic might host it.
Oh, absolutely.
And Matt C. might have a little interlude in there. Yeah, we'd let Matt C. do a little bit.
But Matt C., they have to be jokes. You just can't call him a fat dickhead.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like
right,
there has to be some substance to it. Get a look at this guy. What a fat dickhead.
You got to
anyway.
Look at
on
this.
to the LSJ. What a piece of shit newspaper that is.
Look at this David Muir loving motherfucker.
Oh yeah,
we don't need that.
You know this guy?
Yeah. No, we don't. Yeah, we don't need.
What's
need
next?
That.
Hitler?
Yeah. No.
Adam next. Hypothetically, the Lions win the Super Bowl. Who from the team gets a statue outside of Ford Field? Someone would get a statue, right? Dan fucking Campbell would get a statue. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Doing that yell, dude. Him and Tony Dombrowski.
Yeah, I mean, and can you imagine? I mean, you get the Jared Goff chance now, but if Jared Goff is the quarterback who leads them to a Super Bowl, like
he can't win an MVP, he's not going to get a statue.
He will someday have a statue at Ford Field if they win the Super Bowl.
Dude, I could put a statue of all of them MFers.
Yeah,
just around the stadium.
Brian Branch,
all with like their high five, like they just have their hand up so you can walk by and high five them and shit.
Yeah,
seriously, do it. Adam Graham, I watched the last podcast on YouTube. When did you start cutting your own hair? The roast is starting.
Yeah. Okay. First of all,
I got to look at the last podcast.
Here's what happens. Early in the day, and I'm wearing a hat now, but hair looks really good. Late in the day, I'll like run my fingers through it 12 different times and then look at it. Like Michelle.
Who's Michelle? Maybe Meebe? Who's cutting your hair? Why'd you just yell out a random lady's name?
I'm sorry. Not gonna.
The person that cut your hair?
Yeah,
the fierce shooter.
I don't want to bring out any negative publicity to my salon, but she's fantastic.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Lions reply guy, Jason, are you going to any playoff games? If the Lions go to the Super Bowl, what would your day look like as far as plans? Would you ever consider going to the Super Bowl if the Lions were in? I don't think so. Like, obviously, you would have to get free tickets and all that. Like, there's no way. The Super Bowl, right? It costs $10,000 to get into the Super Bowl. Shit, it might cost that to get into the NFC Championship game if we make it.
Yeah,
we're already looking at tickets. Like I said, my friend Jordan has a great job, and he gets some. I don't know if we're going to be able to get some. If we do make the NFC Championship, we do have plans to go to that game, whether or not we get tickets or we have to do something else. So, like, but as far as the Lions, the Super Bowl plans, like, I just would try to pace myself. I think I would try to go work out in the morning, like eat right in like the middle part of the day.
And then just
to
some degree, yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm going to be 46 this year, so I'm kind of like I'm learning to pace myself because you know those games that are like 8:30, 9 o'clock games, you just gotta.
Well, so maybe
can't
that
go too hard.
If they get there, maybe that week we do a pure options tutorial on like how you do that day because that.
And I might just throw it all out. Who knows?
Yeah,
I might wake up and just wake and bake.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all anything's possible. I just don't like to, as of right now, the plan would be to be kind of smart with it.
By the way, in terms of yelling out random women's names, my hairstylist's name's Melissa. I don't know why I yelled Michelle.
Dude, you are so weird.
I am a weird dude.
That whole reaction just made it so much like people are like, wow, there must be really something happening.
She's fantastic. I mean, she does all sorts of complex hair and colorings and all this, and she's a great.
Like, why would you promote her business? It's like
she's phenomenal. Well, I don't want.
She avoiding taxes or something?
No,
you
she's
want to talk about it?
Dominic goes to her as well. Melissa's great.
Jesus, why are you telling everybody's business? Maybe Dominic doesn't want that out there.
Why wouldn't he?
I don't know, but I mean, that's his personal business.
If not,
But, I mean, it's a salon. It's obvious.
He'll roast my ass on it if he doesn't want it anyway. It'll be fine.
Oh, I'm sure he doesn't care. But, geez, anybody else go there that you know? Any celebrities?
Dominic.
Professor, if both Michigan and Notre Dame win the national championships in back-to-back seasons, what is an appropriate response for starved MSU fans?
What?
Start cheating. I don't know.
No, I mean, does it seem more realistic, or right? Is it? Are you angry? Like what? Oh. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying here. I think the response is just focus on your own program. Head down is what I would say. Head down, because like there's just at some point it'll get better, but until then you certainly shouldn't. You can't talk any smack. It doesn't probably feel very good. And head down and keep focusing on
just
your
quote this
own
guy.
Stuff.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
Just move on. Yeah. Gramanito Couch, how realistic is Arizona State's past football season as a goal for MSU in the next 2 to 3 seasons?
Well,
I tell you what, Dillingham was on Dan Patrick today. Dan Patrick today. I love the dude. Yeah, I think he can keep it going. Obviously, he's got a little Dan Campbell thing going on with him too.
He's sharp.
Yeah,
but they're no better than Michigan State was in 2021. So, and that happened quickly out of almost nothing, right? So it can happen fast to get to that level. That's the advantage. You will be judged whether you're Jonathan Smith or most coaches. You have to get to the playoff at some point. The playoff, now that the playoff is not just 4 and it's 12, like you got to get in. And I just don't think you're like Michigan State ought to be able to try to do it while they have the quarterback receiver combo they have in Aiden Childs and Nick Marsh. Like that ought to be the goal. You got those guys likely for 2 more years, right? And try to build enough around them that you're in that zone within that time. And Arizona State just took MSU's quarterback, Sam Levitt, and did it. Now, they might have had and they weren't very good the year before, and they weren't supposed to be very good. So it can happen quickly.
You just got to get one of those ski-bow dudes.
Or Kenneth Walker.
Yeah. Gramanito Couch. Did Jeremy Fears earn Robbie Hummel's praise that he's reminiscent of Cleves, Lucas, and Winston, or was that premature, given Washington had a bigger blowout than Rube at Midnight Tavern post-Taco Bell?
No, I think when you watch Fears, the way he pushes the ball, and it's one of the things that was really noticeable dating back to the way Michigan State played in Spain in August. It was that jumped out as something that was different than last year, and he just didn't get as much with Hogard. I think it is, and you see some similarities in the leadership and the big shots he hits, the threes he's starting to hit in big moments. Cleves was never a great shooter, but hit a lot of big shots, especially as a sophomore. I mean, his best scoring years were earlier when the roster wasn't as good, and as they got more seasoned and better talent, he scored less and was just more of an assist guy. But no, I don't think any of that stuff's off base. I think you can see the remnants of it.
And you could see it with Fears on the bench, like even earlier on when he just got to Michigan State, when he's kind of coaching guys like or like Izzo comes over and they're talking about a play. That's leadership. That's when you see a guy, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's barking. He's barking at guys at huddles yesterday. Right. He's on on the floor.
Some guys just have that.
And AJ Hogard talked a lot, but I don't think his teammates always respected it. And I think they respect. Fears has something in his eyes. You're like, that guy's a little. I mean, the way he, the freshman point guard for Washington. I mean, Fears was in his head. That kid was struggling, and they were trying to get him from falling off the wagon on the bench, last night at the Washington's bench. I mean, Fears comes across as this really, and I think he is a nice kid, but when he's playing, he will talk some shit. He will get into your head, and he has that nastiness to him, and that sort of desire to win above all else that I think you want.
Well, when they can't find the person that shot you, I'd be pissed off too. Gramanito Couch. Has the college football expansion led to more interesting, enjoyable football this year? I'd argue yes, but many folks didn't feel it in the first round.
Oh, no, for sure it has, because it took away the angst all season about getting into the playoff. The angst that we used to hate, that ESPN lived on. When somebody lost in week 1, it was like, they're out of the playoffs, their season's over, life's over, might as well shoot yourself in the head. Like that's what ESPN did forever. and it was awful. And
I told you to shoot yourself in the head.
That's an exaggeration. We'll fix that in post. That was not a.
Oh, okay.
But my point being, it was just like your life is over. You've waited all year for football season. You lose week 1. It's it. And to some degree, it was hard to get in. But you just felt this sort of very quickly. That stuff is gone. The whole season is more enjoyable because there are multiple routes to get in there. You can lose to Northern Illinois at home and still play for a national championship. That was not possible before the 12-team playoff. And you could argue that maybe we didn't always get the best champion because the team that would have won it didn't get in. And we don't know. The 12-team playoff, to me, will always deliver at least a team that, you're never going to leave out the best team in the country when you pick 12. And so the teams that get left out will be flawed teams on the fringes, and sometimes they'll have a case that they should have been in, but they won't have a case that they're one of the best 4 teams in the country going into the playoff. And I don't know. Yeah, I think it improved it immensely. There are lots of things that threaten college sports. The 12-team playoff is the best thing it has going for it.
Chris Muir-Eastlick next. If college football in 2025 went immediately back to the original conferences, both Power 5 and non, and were able to draw up new TV deals with no penalty, would there be any less money to be made? My hot take is no. Fan engagement wouldn't drop off, and if anything, you add some portal and NIL rules. It probably grows even more because everyone feels invested again.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I do. It's not better now in terms of the conference life isn't better. It was better when the Pac-12 existed. It was better when the Big Ten, when you get your arms around a conference, when a conference had some sort of had history and rivalries and had some sort of geographical draw usually. It was better. There's no question it's better. And greed and television and all of that is changed that. It doesn't mean it's awful now, but it's not better. And I do believe you're right, that especially in the day and age where live sports, in terms of television, is the thing that drives television advertising because everything else is streamed, and it's the one thing you can lock people on at a given time. And it would have been fine. And college sports could have had more of the control. And if the Pac-12 just hadn't screwed it up, maybe they still would have. I think things would have been fine. I think they would have.
Next one from Chris. What Graham take led to "Don't coach my team"? And looking back on that take, who was right, Graham or Izzo?
Yeah,
wrong one.
Don't coach my team.
That was a take that I think people would appreciate. It was at Illinois in 2017, and it was a Nick Ward question. It was when Michigan State was playing a lot of Kenny Goins at center and not as much Nick Ward. And it was obvious that offensively Nick Ward made them a lot better when he was in the game. And he may have not done a lot of things defensively that Izzo wanted. And although Kenny Goins got scored over that year a ton. And it was a question about Nick Ward. And I think Izzo was just sick of hearing that. And but it had to be asked because it was really evident in that game. I can't remember. Illinois had like a 7-2 center, just kept jump hooking over.
Izzo was like, Couch is going to ask me about this.
And then he just railed on me as we walked out of the press conference. He was not thrilled. He was really sick of that storyline at that time. But I was right, okay, in that sense. Nick Ward was underplayed that year. I also understand why Nick Ward defensively drove Izzo nuts. I understood why Izzo was frustrated. He was supposed to have Gavin Schilling that year, at least a veteran big man with a little more ability to defend, and didn't. And so he just had Kenny Goins playing out of position.
Next one from Chris. The Tigers really are just going to run it back, aren't they?
They're not going to get Bregman? Aren't they going to get Bregman? Is that not happening?
I guess we're in the mix. Should we be excited about that? And Alex Cobb, letting Verlander. Like, I'm okay with not signing Verlander. I think Verlander's done.
Same.
I hope he proves me wrong in San Fran, but I mean, I don't know about Alex Cobb either. So,
but to me,
out of the two guys,
to me, Bregman, what he would give you, and Days of Roar, the Detroit Free Press podcast, with Evan Petzold, they do a nice job of. They had a good episode on Alex Bregman, and you're not going to get everything that Bregman would bring you anywhere else. That was the point they made. Like in terms of leadership, in terms of a right-handed hitter in that spot in the lineup in terms of a guy who can play third. Like all the things that he brings, you're not going to be able to make up for it, and they should just do it. And if they don't do it, I think there are going to be a lot of people who are really annoyed with him.
But why wouldn't he pick Detroit, though, with Hinch? Has to be because the owner's a cheapskate fuck.
Yeah, it's got to be more
why
money.
It isn't done yet.
More money somewhere else, yeah.
Shep, the over-under for the highest single game point total for any player on this year's MSU basketball team is set at 27.5. Bazooka to your head, what's the play?
Bazooka time.
This is good because you want to say under. If it's going to go over, it's probably going to be Akins. But he's gotten to 25 once. He got to 20 last night. He got to 20 last night missing several outside shots. Went 8 for 13, but missed some. If he had hit a couple more threes, obviously you're like at 26. And they were trying last night. The thing Fear said in the locker room is they were trying to get, once he got to like 18, they were like, we're going to try to get Akins his career high. And so if you have a point guard whose mentality on a given night might be, we want to get this guy a career high.
Yeah.
You could see him having
a night.
He may
want to do a lot of things, but
you could see him having a night where he got to 28. And the thing is, it's not likely to happen against like a team like Illinois or something, but one night where Akins, I think if I had to bet bazooka to my head.
But there would have to be value on the over, the number, right? I mean, you're not.
Even money. Even money.
Yeah.
Even money, I'd probably take the under. But I wouldn't feel good about it. I don't know. Actually, I might take the over.
I'm taking the under.
It's one game. Yeah.
I don't know.
The thing is,
tell me what guy.
Yeah, the thing is, it would just be Akins. Like I don't see anybody else on the team. And maybe
at even money. That's terrible.
Maybe Richardson has a game. But yeah, give me the under.
You got one guy, and you're getting even money.
Yeah, give me the under.
Mr. Benjen, this MSU basketball team is a joy to watch. What are your top 3 joyous MSU basketball teams?
3 favorite that they're different stages. There's the times covering them, and then there's the time when I was like a kid watching them. And like there's Fire and Ice. When I was 15, the Fire and Ice team with Sean Respert and Eric Snow in 94, 95 was like, that's my favorite team of all time of like MSU fandom. I think, the last year that I was really around here a lot, it was that first year they won the Big Ten title, when that was like a big deal, when they had been a middling program for a long time in 97, 98. That was a year that I really, really enjoyed. I would go with my dad to games and sit where the I-Zone is now. There wasn't much of an I-Zone. You could just buy tickets down there in that first year. So those sort of stand out. It's sort of my youth. But in terms of covering them, which would be really 2011-12 on those seasons, and teams that you just really enjoyed being around the people. Like the Cassius Winston junior year team, when they really started to take off, with him and Xavier Tillman is one of them. That was a lot of fun. The senior year team, obviously, it got ruined by COVID at the end. Cassius had his brother die early. The whole year was different. But the junior year team that made the Final Four was one of them for sure. This year's team is definitely one of them. In terms of just my pure enjoyment of covering a team, enjoyment of watching them play, it's certainly up there. And I think the Denzel Valentine senior year at its best was another, because he was, I don't know, that team was a lot of fun, and that team had come from a point of like misery in the middle of the year before, making that Final Four run, and that I would say those were it. If I had to give you 3.
Mr. Benjen, have either of you ever had furry cocky?
I don't know what this is. Can I safely Google it?
Just don't put in bukkake. Furry. Furi.
I don't know what any of this stuff is. It's
got to be a food, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, good. It's just a food. It's a dry Japanese condiment sprinkled on top of cooked rice, vegetables, and fish. It looks very good. I bet you can get it at Front 43 and Cask and Company. They do. That looks. I don't think I have had it. If I have, it's been on a dish that I didn't know. That
you didn't know you were having furry cocky?
I didn't know I was having furry cocky on that. On that
slipped
dish.
it right by you.
Yeah, entirely.
David Jackson, is it futile to give a baked take on Monday? You're only going to answer one take. If we give you a second take, you invariably select the throwaway additional baked take rather than carefully worded crafted hot take, leading to remorse and regret.
Well,
like David Jackson's a fine print guy. Like he reads all the
no, and I appreciate
before
that.
he clicks the.
I appreciate that, and the idea of a bake take is that you're enjoying the pure options. You know, you've gone to pureoptions.com, and the take is one of those things that comes to you when you've got a few MGs in your system, and
conspiracy takey kind of thing.
You enjoy the pure options, yeah. So no, it is not. It's not futile. The idea of the Monday show is that you're going to give us 3 and we're going to pick one, right? And that's the idea. And hearing your take read and having a good take that on its own is entertaining or dead on is supposed to be part of the deal.
Are you mansplaining the show? The hot take show? Is that what you just did there? You mansplaining it?
I'm not mansplaining. I'm just
sounds like you were. Like
explaining.
I think people get the show. Like,
do they? I don't think they do, because when I ask for like one take, I get 7. So I don't think that people really always get the show. I appreciate them producing it for us. But the idea of a bake take is just to give us something that's a little different. Something I think when we were doing just 3 hot takes for a while, and some people were trying to make them too hot. I like takes that can be hot, they can be baked, and we'll pick the best one. And if your baked is better than, if you want one take for us, if you have a take you really want us to talk about, just put one in.
Write it in all caps.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Care if that's your best one.
Yeah.
David Jackson, do you and Chris Solari have deep regrets at not creating a Spartan Speak program courtside last night?
I will. No. You mean like live during the game or post game? No. No.
Graham.
We'll probably do one. I think we're going to do one early next week. But we did. No.
What a tease.
Yeah.
David. Jace Richardson has more all-net buckets than anyone else on the team, despite taking half the attempts of anyone else. He's the best shooter at MSU in generations. Why isn't he the offensive focus on the team? Shouldn't he double his shot attempts? Is Izzo holding him down? Is it a plot to keep Jace from turning pro after the season? See, that's like 9 questions in one. We let it all happen.
Yeah,
David, like, what do you?
Yeah, David, you got it.
You're an MVP here, man. What do you? We get to yours.
By the way, I got to chat with David at Ohio State. Had a really good conversation. Enjoyed it quite a bit. So a couple things. One, and I've talked to Izzo about Jace Richardson and the volume of his shots, because I don't know if he's done it yet, but he hadn't taken more than 8 shots in a game for a long time, and I'm still not sure he has. But part of the reason Izzo trusts him, he has the green light to shoot whenever he wants. And part of the reason he's so efficient is he takes shots at the right times. He doesn't alienate his teammates. He takes the shot that's the best for his team.
You mean anytime he wants, like anytime?
Just about.
From like a logo? I mean, like from these long Steph Curry level?
Well, no, the reason is that Izzo trusts that he will take good shots. He's one of those guys that Izzo trusts. But he could certainly take more, and I think they will lean into that as they need it more in the season. I think in February you'll see that. Because he probably could play a larger role. But when is that needed? And then as a freshman, he's going to have days like yesterday or Thursday night. They're playing Washington, and Jaden Akins and Fears are just this. There's a deep, intense focus to them. They are not letting this lead sort of permeate the vibe, right? And Jace is smiling, enjoying it. And I'm not saying he wasn't dialed in too. But he's not setting the tone. Like, he's not. That's where a freshman and guys who have been around and are like, the tone was being set by those other 2 guys. Those other 2 guys are still critically important. And I do think, though, Richardson has a ceiling that we haven't seen, and even a ceiling to this season that we haven't seen. I don't think it has anything to do with holding him back. He's playing a lot of minutes. He can shoot as many shots as he wants. Part of the reason he's trusted out there is he takes good shots at the right times.
Suburban Spartan Dad next. It is pretty clear the locker room and vibes of this year's MSU Hoops team are way healthier than the last few. How does it compare to pre-pandemic teams you've covered, Graham? Who is your favorite guy to talk to on this team, and why?
There have been others that have been good. This is a really good vibes team, and part of it's the contrast to, like, I enjoyed last year's team, but this is better. There's no question. That team had been around for a while and was around probably 1 year too long in certain ways. But there were good guys on that team, guys I really enjoyed talking with. Some are still on this year's team. But in terms of how it compares to pre-pandemic in terms of vibes, there have been some great vibes teams. Winning helps. The Cassius Winston junior year team was a great vibes team. The The Denzel Valentine senior year, great vibes team. The Draymond Green senior year team that won more than expected. I think that has something to do with it. When like that team in 2011-12, it was the first year I was covering them, and I didn't even cover the beginning of that season. And they lose in the first Champions Classic to Duke in a real close game, but they discovered that they were a lot better than they thought they were going to be. That team that wound up being a 1 seed and getting a share of the Big Ten title and might have gotten to a Final Four if Brandon Dawson hadn't torn up his knee in that finale against Ohio State, that was a great vibes team because part of it was they were just winning beyond expectation, and they had leadership. And I think when you look at great vibes teams, look at leadership. Great leadership with Draymond Green as a senior. Great leadership with Cassius Winston, with and just a guy that was a beloved sort of engine of the team. Great leadership with that team with Denzel Valentine. So leadership matters. But this is no doubt one of the better vibes teams I've been around. And favorite guy to talk to on the team. It's a good question. Like, I don't have a guy who's like a go-to quote. I mean, I enjoy Jaden Akins just because I've been around him so long, and he's not always been the most outwardly talkative guy, and I've watched him grow into sort of the responsibility of that. And like, I really enjoyed the conversation with him. I've enjoyed a lot of them, but at Kansas or after the Kansas game this year, I mean, that was his moment. He was supposed to take hold of the team, and he had kind of not done it, frankly. And it had been a really bad night for him, and his bad night was a big reason they lost that game. And he sat there and answered all the questions, and he knew it. He knew he had to be better, and he's been better since. But if you cower in those moments, that's a problem. So he's one of my, Jace Richardson's enjoyable. I really enjoy Xavier Booker. I think Cohen Carr is one of the more thoughtful people. Jackson Kohler I've had great conversations with. So there are a number of guys on the team who will that's one of the things. It's not a team where there's 2 or 3 of them. There are a lot of guys who are enjoyable.
T-Bone's dad next. Can you recall the last time a team quit like that in Breslin? Washington didn't want to be there in the second half. It reminded me of Michigan in 2000. I was lucky enough to be in the I-Zone both times.
Once you fall behind like 42-13, it's like, there's
couldn't hit any shots. Man. Yeah, that was wild.
And I think there was some. I didn't think they completely quit, but they were just.
But there was a lot of who gives a shit.
There's like it'd be nice. It'd be nice for this game to end. There was a little of that, yeah. And I've seen them take the life out of teams and be ready to just be done. I can't recall like instances necessarily, but it's not the first time I've seen that from teams. And because there used to be games where I would, and this is really early on covering them when they had some great teams in 12 through 14, and you'd watch the opponent in the first few minutes, and that's one of the advantages of sitting really close. And you can sometimes say, like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this other team's going to score. And that was the way, you feel a little bit more last night than what's interesting, what's different now than it was back then is we used to sit on the other side than we do now. And so in the first half, I would see Michigan State on defense really, really close up. Now I see them on offense really close up. And I like the offensive perspective more. I see them, what they're getting into. It works overall better. But for some of the defensive stuff early on in those years, you'd be like, I would just piss my pants trying to score against these guys. They're all over them. They have no chance. And so I've seen teams sort of wither against that before.
G.E. Miller, what grade would you give Jonathan Smith's recruiting class and transfer class? And how many wins will it produce next year?
Well, it can't be an A, right? Because there's just not enough sort of high-end juice to it in terms of the recruiting. But other than that, I don't know. I think any recruiting class and transfer class is an incomplete until it's on the field, until it sticks around, until it produces. And I think that's just the way you got to treat it. You can maybe have something be a complete failure or you can't even do that. That's not even fair. You can have something not be an A. To be an A, and frankly, to be an A, you still need to see it on the field.
That's like Ohio State's recruiting class.
Yeah, but even
that's
then,
an A.
Right. So you can have it, but even then you need to see
Notre
it on the
Dame
field.
had, what, 1 5-star?
Yeah.
Right?
And they got some really good transfers, or making mostly grad transfers, making big contributions.
But you could grade it at face value of how many whether or not you agree with how the process works.
Correct. If we're just grading on stars, it's like a C-. Although I do think the transfer portal part of it has there have been some guys that are intriguing there, especially at the receiver position. There are a number of guys that you go, oh, that could be interesting, but we just don't know. They had a pretty decent transfer class last year. They didn't have that guy who was the Kenneth Walker type, and will you get that sort of receiver who really is one of these, two receivers they brought in? I guess they want more than that now, but is there somebody who's a real game breaker that we'll sort of discover? I don't know. It's incomplete is what I would say. And how will it produce, we just don't know.
Thomas next. I'm sure the TV money is good enough to compensate, but how long will it take, if ever, for the travel and mixing of really different play styles to dissolve the super conferences for competitive reasons? Those factors already seem to be popping up sometimes in the bigger sports.
It'll be very interesting to watch the response to this year, and the Big Ten especially. And my guess is the ACC's got a little of this with like Cal and Stanford's travel, but I think there'll be a little bit with teams going west, but much more of it with the teams repeatedly coming east. That it's going to wear on people. People aren't going to like it. It's going to be too much. And what the response is in terms of how they schedule over time, I think there'll be a couple years more before they change anything. But you could get to a point where you add a couple more teams to the Big Ten, you get to 20, and you do have 3 divisions in most sports, and maybe not in football. Football's you're only traveling out there once. You used to do that for non-conference anyway. You don't really need to do it as much. If you have, the problem is if you have, so say you have 20 teams, and you've got a 6-team division and 2 7-team divisions or something like that in basketball and everything else. And I don't know how you make that all work. Or you have, you could have 4 pods of 5 and whatever that feeds into conference tournaments or however you wanted to do it. But I do think that overall there will be something different than now. And in football, then you would just have you get to a point where you play 10 conference games. I mean, you're all over the country anyway. Play 10 conference games, and you'd have you'd play 9. You'd have maybe one protected be an issue that will be addressed.
Original Dark Mantonio. Graham, when asked who's the best Big Ten basketball team, you've been lumping a group of teams together, but get bold right here, right now. Give us your number 1 through number 5 teams in order of the end of Big Ten men's basketball. Right now, Illinois, MSU, and Michigan are wrecking shop.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan looks really, really good. And Michigan State looks very good. Illinois is, I think, as high a ceiling as any of them. And I think those 3 have stood out. I haven't seen them against each other yet, so it's impossible to really rank them. And I know Illinois wins by 4 against Washington. Michigan State wins by 34, but one's home, one's road, one's across the country, one's not. Michigan looks very good. If you wanted me to rank right now, I'd put Michigan 1, Illinois 2, MSU 3. But it's based on bullshit, really. I mean, it's not. They haven't played each other. We haven't seen the way those matchups look, and we haven't seen enough of those teams be tested. I think it's a better question to begin to ask after MSU plays Illinois on January 19th.
Original Jason, did you grow up in Ovid, and were you always an MSU fan as far as college fandom goes? No, I did not grow up in Ovid. My wife lived there. She was previously married to a gentleman who they lived in Ovid. Almost 7 years lived in Ovid. Big fan, love it. As far as always an MSU fan, I was like a big Andre Rison fan when I was a kid. Then the Fab Five happened, gigantic like Fab Five guy, right? And then Michigan, the national championship. So I would say a Michigan fan then, and then like in my 20s, like I was a Michigan State, like from there on. So. Okay. But yeah, dude, Fab Five was like those guys were like rock stars to me.
Well, yeah,
we dressed like them in middle school when we play intramural basketball. It was just, yeah.
If you're our age, like you think about the culture phenomenon they were. If you're our age, like
it was everything.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember Michigan basketball winning the '89 championship before that with Ramil Robinson and Glenn Rice and all those guys, and enjoying it. And I was a Michigan State fan as a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever it was back then.
But my dad was a State fan. He had season tickets for football, so we would go, right? But then when you grow up, you kind of like, you want to go against your father. So then the Fab Five with the black socks, baggy shorts, shaved head, like they were against all of that, like the older generation. It was awesome.
And I was not against Michigan at that. I guess in the Fab Five era, I remember the '89. We had a TV that was on the fritz, one tube TV in the house, right?
Sounds like now.
Yes, yeah. And we used to hit it with a sledgehammer to get the picture to come back on. It's amazing. You hit the side of it, and eventually that wasn't working that well, and it would go down to like one little line, and then you'd hit with a sledgehammer, and the picture would come back. And eventually it was so on the fritz. And part of the problem was I used to play basketball in the living room, and we think it was all the bouncing of the ball with the TV that jarred it or whatever. But anyway, 89 NCAA tournament. TV is just not going to make it. And so we borrowed a TV from somebody, and it was like 13-inch, and it wasn't great, and it just
like you brought it back.
No,
gave it back to him?
No, but what we did is the championship game, I still remember, we fired up our old TV one last time, and it gave us a good 2.5 hours, one last time, and then we got to watch that championship game with Emil Robinson hitting the free throws and overtime and all that. And I was, if you're 9, 10 years old in that era, and then 11, 12, 13 in the Fab Five era, like that stuff can't help but influence you. I still believe there are Michigan basketball fans around here of our age because of that era. Like that influences you at a certain age.
Easily.
And I missed the Fab Five Final Fours on 2 youth group trips, so that probably helped.
I just like that you asked to borrow a TV. I could just imagine the neighbors are like, yeah, the couches need to borrow our TV. Don't they hit theirs with a sledgehammer? Like, I don't know if we should be. We'll never get it back.
That is a story almost worth telling, but told anyway. Presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing, an awesome place for any occasion, an office party, just a drink after work, a cozy date night on a weekend here in downtown Lansing.
Original, how old were both of you when you noticed your first gray hair anywhere on your body? And how old were you when you started balding, if you have started balding? Jesus, great question. I think I noticed a pube here like a while ago, right? But like I would get like just single kind of gray, like my 30s, early 30s, I would see a little.
Yeah.
My dad and grandfather, they would get it in the sides, but not like a full gray.
Mid to late 30s, started seeing it in the sideburns a little bit. Yep, that was.
But the bald spot, I do get thankfully, I have genetically good hair, but like we do get the Knicks get the bald spot in our fat heads. So yeah, thankfully, hopefully it doesn't progress, but I'll definitely get a rug like George Blaha.
I never think I'm balding at all, and then somebody will take a picture at the Breslin Center from above with me sitting there like, oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
And it's not, luckily I think I have my Uncle Bruce, the one from Cranbrook who looks like Connor Eargood from the Detroit News. I think I have his hair genetically, my mom's brother. And so it'll thin, but it won't be like my dad who used to have the kind of comb over the wind.
The swoop.
Yeah, the swoop.
Yeah, the Blaha.
I'm never going to get all the way.
Would you get a fake piece? Like,
no.
They're making them really good now. Like Urlacher's got one.
Really?
Yeah. And it looks pretty good.
I don't think so. I wouldn't want people to know I had it.
I don't think I'd give it. I mean, the old ones in the 90s and early 2000s, the ones that look terrible. But I think the ones that look good now, the hair treatment kind of things, there's no way this fat head of mine should be bald. Like, I'll look absolutely terrible. I would have to get a piece.
I would ask my wife what she wanted. Well, she's the only person I'm trying to impress.
Wait a minute. He's not going to have hair now either? Fuck me. It's the only redeeming quality.
Yeah, it looks like a giant penis already.
And he likes Muir. Andy Schofield, this appears to be a classic Izzo team. Do you get a feel for if Izzo enjoys coaching this team more than others?
Yes, he does. And it's very clear watching him. It was clear last night how much he loved the alumni zone. But you can tell how much he loves coaching Jeremy Fears, and some of it again is the contrast. You can tell how much he enjoys this group because he is trying to, even when he's upset with them. You can tell he's not that angry. And I've covered teams that he was sick of. Look, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Whenever he had the team 2 years ago, that in like all my time covering them, he's always had an open locker room. He's always had players available after practices or after a game. And that's one of the great things about covering that program. And a game at Penn State, he hated them so much that day, he did not open the locker room. And it was really interesting because it spoke to just how much that team was driving him insane. And this is a very different scenario. He is, I think he's enjoyed some others, but I think he enjoys this group, and maybe it's the contrast to the last 4 years, but I think he enjoys this group about as much as any he's had in a while.
Next one from Andy. I love listening to Jason's reads during the break, especially when he gets sped up by the music or rushes at the end to get it all in. Need me to do some? Listen, Schofield, does he think I do these live? Like, I don't read these live. You know that, right? Like, honestly, I don't even do any of the post-production. I read, like, in pre-production, I just read what they give me. Now I can understand I don't have, the best tact or whatever, but like, if it's sped up or when the music hurries up, I didn't do any of that stuff. But I would love for you to do one.
Yeah. No, I usually.
I mean, he did come in and read some of the Twitter questions that people have been writing in and saying, "Can we have Andy Schofield back on?"
We have been.
We haven't. Oh, we have not gotten any emails. Sorry. Spoke.
Speaking of breaks, let's take one quickly.
Listen to my commercial.
Couch in the Rue, presented by Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Friday show presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes Couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Friday show brought to you by Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Enjoy the football games, the sign-up bonuses, the user-friendly interface, and all that good stuff. Back to your Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
Ken Chu next. Is Cohen Carr the best free throw shooter on the team, and what happened to Booker's jump shot?
I would not say Cohen Carr is the best free throw shooter on the team, even if he's off, because you're not going to see him shooting like technical free throws. But it's been impressive to watch him go from 11 for 26 to pretty much 95%. Booker's shot's interesting because he's got a really smooth shot. I think it'll be there again. And I think he's done a good job of contributing in other ways. But it is interesting because it is something that I think will be a big part of his game, and I think it'll be something that's consistent at some point in his basketball career and a real weapon. It's just I don't know why it's not there.
Next one from Ken. Caw Booey's Boo-Booey's gone, right?
Yes. They've got a bunch of old guys who look like they belong in a YMCA game on the roster still, but and they beat Illinois at home, and I think they're a tough out there in Evanston. But Boo Buie is no longer
he has no more nothing left, right? You can't just show up
until he sues. He's done with eligibility, right?
Bleed Green. Jace Richardson said the Alumni Zone was the best crowd he's played in front of. What a cool tradition. Also, need to hear both of your score predictions for Sunday versus Northwestern.
And you got a prediction for Sunday?
71-54.
Holy shit! Which team?
Michigan State.
Okay. Yeah. I
haven't crushed any tape on Northwestern.
Give me 77-70 MSU right now. And again, this is subject to change, but that's where
you got to stay with it. That's it.
And by the way, if you are can be watching the game at home on Sunday afternoon, and then good day of NFL football, make Groovy Donuts part of your weekend. You can swing on by either location, pick up a half dozen, pick up a dozen, however many people are coming over. Just pick up a couple for yourself. You'll feel good. They're open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's Thursday through Sunday. That's Williamston, their location, and in East Lansing on Lake Lansing Road. And they also, on Lions game days, if you're thinking ahead to next week, they have Lions game day donuts. You can order them online. Go to groovydonuts.com. Plan ahead and make Groovy Donuts part of your Lions playoff package. And they've got basketball donuts for this weekend. They've got all sorts of really cool donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com and you click on their online store, and you'll just see some of the really awesome offerings, and you can order them, and they can be yours. This joy in your life can be yours at groovydonuts.com.
Next one from Bleed Green. Do you think Kristen Kelsey will plan to have the most MSU volleyball games, less Michigan or Nebraska, back at Jenison until the new arena is built? Doesn't it seem like the grand plans Johnson had to move games to Breslin help much at all?
Yeah, I think when you're losing, you don't get a great atmosphere. I still think Breslin is it's an upgrade in certain ways. And I think the answer to this is what the players want, what helps you recruit. I think that's what matters when you're trying to build a program. Alan Haller has said he's committed to the cost in the short term until they have the new arena, which is like $500,000 almost for a season, $500,000 to flip the gym and to pay the people to do that and all that stuff that it costs to have volleyball at Breslin. But I think whatever you see, it's best. I do think there were some great atmospheres at Jenison, and so, yeah, I think, and it will be up to Kelsey.
Alex Mayer next. I really like this MSU team, and especially seeing what it has the potential to become. But at this point, what is their best win? 10-6 North Carolina. And from C-Dubs91, at what point do we trust this MSU basketball team? I want to now, but I'm still very skeptical.
Well, when you ask what their best win is, just strictly from a Ken Palm perspective in terms of ranking, their best win is North Carolina, which is ranked 30th in Ken Palm. Their second best win is at Ohio State, which is 32nd, and you could argue is better because it was a road game in that sense. Other than that, Nebraska's 34th. That 89-52 win is going to hold up, I think, because Nebraska's pretty good. And so yeah, you're right. They have not played. That's what makes Illinois, who's 8 in Ken Palm, such an interesting game. And then they don't play another top 20 Ken Palm team. UCLA's 28, Oregon's 25. Those are tough games. Those will be one on the road, one at home. But they don't play another top 20 Ken Palm team till like Illinois again on the road Saturday the 15th. And then they have Illinois, Purdue at home, at Michigan. So 3 in a row of them. At Maryland, who's ranked 24th right now. Wisconsin, who's 21st, then at Iowa, and then Michigan at home. In February, it gets real fast, and but that's why that Illinois game is interesting, and I think will be telling. We know a lot about this MSU team. We don't have a sense of, and I think they can be in every game, but can they beat teams that are at their level, and how they handle those games down the stretch? I think we still don't know.
C-Dubs91, could women's basketball play in this new arena in Breslin like UConn?
That is not the plan, and I don't think they would. Breslin is the idea is for women's basketball to continue to grow, that they need all the seats in Breslin. I'm not saying there couldn't be a random game where they did it for whatever reason, but you wouldn't. No, the offices are in Breslin. The whole operation is in Breslin for women's basketball. Whereas, like with the new arena, the volleyball offices will be there in the arena. The gymnastics offices, the wrestling, all that stuff will be there, and that'll be their home. the basketball offices, the practice facility, everything's in Breslin. Breslin's their home. I doubt you'll see basketball there.
Alex Mayer, what are your top 3 cereals of all time? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Cinnamon Life, a bowl of. Oh man, I could go for a bowl of that right now. Life cereal, love that.
Yeah.
Fruity Pebbles, a classic.
Mm.
I gotta say, like the what's the one with the clusters in it? Like the raisins. I kind of like a bowl of that every once. I mean, I haven't had it in forever, but that would be my top 3.
Okay.
But Cinnamon Life, top 1. That's number
really
1.
good.
It's a 1 seed for me.
Yeah, I've had, I've just gone through so many phases of it. I don't even know what it would be. Like I had a period where like Honey Nut Cheerios was like everything I ever wanted.
What's your best bowl of cereal after hot soup that you've just previously had a half hour before?
Yeah, not Cracklin' Oat Bran, too much fiber. But Pops at one point. It's
Pops.
You remember Pops cereal?
Like Honey Pops things?
Yeah,
yeah.
I used to love those. I don't eat a ton of cereal now. It's all sort of a healthy vanilla type stuff that my wife has.
Honeycombs.
Yeah. By the way, we missed one question from C-Dubs. If the new building is for volleyball, is there a plan for Jenison? And
I missed that, or you missed that?
You missed that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Answer it.
Yeah. Well, I think track will be in there. I think they'll use it less and less. I think there will be things that are in there still here and there. It's an aging building, and while it still has its charm, it is harder and harder to recruit to. It does not have a lot of charm for like a 17-year-old on a recruiting visit. That's the problem with Jenison these days.
Dan Campbell's Tears. Who will the Lions play next week? Minnesota.
You think so?
Yeah.
So it would take Green Bay or Washington winning, correct, for it to be anybody else. That's the only way it's not Minnesota or the Rams.
Right.
So
I think it's Minnesota.
So you probably.
I mean, I would like to see Green Bay. They're not beating Philly in Philly. I mean, Love can barely feel his hand.
What about Washington, Tampa? You think Washington can
I
win
just
that
like
game?
Tampa. I'm a Mayfield guy.
Yeah.
I'm a Baker guy. Believe me, I want Washington to win, to be honest. I don't.
And the fact
Tampa
that
Bay team.
The Vikings game now is in Glendale, Arizona. Is also I don't know how much.
Thank
of an
God
impact.
for that bye week. Imagine having if you were going to that game though. If you have all the travels shit. And,
it's not ideal.
Lord.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell's Tears. If you had to choose the Lions winning the Super Bowl or no sex for a year, why do all like hypotheticals like blow ass? Like can we ever have like a fun one? Like it's something good. I mean, I know the Super Bowl is great, but no. So does that mean you can't beat your bag?
So
is that like no sex?
No. I think that's just no sex with somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, your wife. Yeah, I mean, you're married. That's pretty much
right. No sex with your wife. Yeah.
I mean, am I right? Married guys?
So you'd prefer one that said if you had to choose between the Lions winning the Super Bowl or sex every day,
or
for
if the Lions don't win the Super Bowl, you get a blowjob once a day for a year.
Okay. So the question is, we have to answer the question.
I just did. As long as I can still beat my bag, I will. I will no sex for a year.
You take the Super Bowl. Yeah.
T would be happy. I mean, we would all be happy. The Lions Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'd be in the bathroom a lot. I mean, it'd just be a great time for everyone. Yeah. Dan Campbell's Tears. Have either of you guys been involved in a fire? What's happening in L.A. is tragic.
Have you been around a house fire or anything like that?
No.
I can't think of one.
Can't say that I have.
Like I felt because at one point I was like, I must have at some point been around a fire, but I don't know that I've been
like a house fire.
I don't know that I've been. Never really involved in one that's been like a big fire that
you started. I mean, what are you talking about? Like you never like one in your neighborhood or?
Yeah, there've been not anything that's really affected me in any way. No, it is. I mean, I know people have dealt with them, but fix this in post. Another bad answer from me.
Is there a tribute to this LA thing or something we have to do in here?
I got nothing.
Thomas Drongowski next. Couch, let me hear your Aussie Open picks for both men and women's draw.
In an
Aussie accent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You do.
I know. Here's Graham Couch's picks, eh?
I do.
Oh, I know.
I do listen to a good betting podcast on tennis from time to time. That
how many podcasts do you have on your freaking thing?
A lot.
Holy shit! Between Hallmark movies and some of these podcasts.
Yeah, the Betting Weekly podcast. It's pretty good with Nigel Seeley and Sean Calvert. I like what they do, and in big tournaments. And I just haven't gotten there yet. But it starts this weekend, right? So I need to get on it. I don't have anything for you yet though.
Shit, where are we at, Thomas? What is the MSU hockey team lacking, if anything, this season? the Alpha Dog top talent and the Alpha Dog top end talent like BC. Overall depth is impressive, however.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, there have been teams that are like historically good with unbelievable amounts of draft picks, like 4 first-rounders and things like that, and they don't have that. I think they're deeper and better overall than a year ago. They have obviously unbelievable goaltending. So I guess that's it. If and whether they need that or not, I don't know. But that's what they don't have.
Thomas, Matt C. has been hanging with Matthew McConaughey in the mean streets of Austin, hence the relaxed mood and takes of late.
Matt C. discovered pure options at some point. If you want to take, if you're having mean, angry takes like Matt C. and you want to find yourself just having more mellow, happier outlook on life, I mean, this is what pure options is here for people like Matt C. It's built for you.
He's not hanging with McConaughey.
Probably not.
Matt C's way cooler. Scott, how do you fix college football gameplay so that the games like the NFL only last about 3 hours, not 3.5 to 4? What rules or TV changes can be made that the networks and leagues will go for? Is it just me? They've shortened the halftime shows, right? Like in the NFL and college, though. It just seems like they're both. The NFL, they must have, because it seems shorter.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the commercials, because they've cut plays out in college to get it more and more like the NFL. The clock moves more and more like the NFL in college. But what they need to do is just more of these, the NFL goes away for like these 30-second timeouts, and they keep half the screen on, the game, and they do one quick commercial, or they do this part, they do something that, they just need more creativity in the advertising and what's presented by and and fewer commercials. You do not need to take a break at every single opportunity to take a break, because it's pissing people off, frankly. It's not a good viewing experience. And the thing is, it's worse if you're in the stadium and you're not actually part of that TV experience. You're just sitting there through the breaks.
Could we get rid of the interviews, though, like after a quarter's over and they go to the sideline to interview the coach?
But that's not slowing it down.
I understand. I was just thinking of things of that annoy me.
You do want more replay. Like, I do love this, like, immediate assist they have in the NFL games.
Yes.
Where, like, that is really cool. How quickly they do those replays. That I love.
College do they have that? Because last night, that interception, I was like, come on, where's the guy shooting that down to the ref going, like, keep this,
They need that.
Scott, what are the chances Garrick Norman has a similar career arc to Matt McQuaid?
Well, Matt McQuaid, I think, like, started his first game ever against Kansas in the Champions Classic. So that's not quite going to happen. But in terms of, like, a really strong finish, I still think Norman's going to be a good player. Now, we'll see whether he stays at MSU, whether it's at MSU, and obviously the knee injury made this year hard for him to battle for time. The roster's deep as it is. Yeah, I mean, there's evidence that he is, and I've seen him enough in practice. Like, he's not a player who can't have a good career, but he just needs a healthy offseason and opportunity. And we've seen with some guys, it takes a minute to grow into something. I'll be interested to see if he sticks around. He's a super nice kid. I think he wants it to work, and we'll see how many guys come back and what that opportunity is a year from now.
Couch on Fire, Jason, did you bet Penn State? I sincerely hope not. Perpetual letdowns. No, I had Notre Dame money line. Yeah, I was not going to let Franklin do this to me once again. And do you blame him for throwing late there?
No.
Right?
No, because
you had they had 2 timeouts?
33 seconds, you're trying to get in field goal range.
Yeah.
You got a veteran quarterback, and he just made a bad throw.
As much as you want to blame Franklin for a lot of stuff, like, I don't blame him for.
I don't blame.
You can't sit there and worry about a pick.
I don't blame him for last night. It was a really competitive, good game. And
you don't blame him for 1-15, and you like David Muir.
Well,
I mean, come on, man. Yeah. You don't blame him at all, though. 1-15 against top 5 teams.
I'm not saying
this guy.
Hold on,
$8 million a year.
I'm not saying I don't blame him for other games. I don't blame him for last night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's blame him for something else then. Couch on Fire, any risk that the Lion coordinators doing all these job interviews takes their focus off the playoff game? No, but I'm going to blame it on that if something catastrophic happens and we lose one of these games. I'm going to blame it on that. I'm going to hate every team that interviewed our guys. But no, I mean, I think the process could be different, right? I just watching Glenn and Ben Johnson, their interview schedules and what must go into it. I mean, is this just an hour interview, or do you have to hang out with these guys?
No, it's probably on Zoom and at this point.
Right,
yeah.
But I mean, is it a preliminary hour thing where you present? I don't know. Like, here's got to be exhausting.
Here's the other thing. I think these guys, I mean, this group, this team, I think this is a special bond these guys have. Like these guys are not going to let things get in the way of what they want to do here. This is part of their legacy too. They want this Super Bowl. They want
but you also want a head coaching job.
100%.
There's a lot of money behind that.
100%.
Whatever their motives are. So I don't know. I don't blame them for taking these interviews. Couch on Fire seems Frankie Fiddler is getting less time plays. Is this because of his defense or other factors? And from Dave Zandy, Frankie Fiddler played 10 minutes last night, which seemed fine based on what he is able to give. How do you think the rest of the season goes for him? Does he find his shot and confidence, or is this what we should expect?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Can you give an answer to that, though, as of right now?
You can't.
No, this is who he's going to be.
You don't know what's going to happen because he's been more than this, but it was at a lower level. And some guys struggle to make that adjustment up. You saw with Joey Hauser, a guy who lost confidence and then found it. And they found it in a huge game. Remember that game against Davidson? And that really spurred the next year for him. Now, this is the only year for Fiddler. So, but could he have a big game and a big moment? I don't think he's the player that Joey Hauser is. But I think you've seen his minutes decline, and I think they're about right where they should be right now. And I still think he's an impact player to a degree in a certain role, and he needs to make open shots. He needs to keep trying to get to the line. He needs to keep playing with as much confidence as he can. And I do think there will be a game or two where he really helps him because I don't think he's going to fall out of the rotation. And if he's playing 10 minutes and he's having a game, it'll be 15 that night, and it'll make a difference. And so, but I honestly don't know, if he could, is it possible he could get going and get hot and have a stretch of 10 games where he's a really important contributor and scorer? Yeah, we just haven't seen it in MSU, so it's hard to believe it.
Scotty Green's El Camino next. I'm beginning to think Max Bulla Plaxicoed himself too. That's why he missed the Rose Bowl. Graham, blink twice if true. 1.
Trying so hard not to.
2. Holy shit. Oh my God. He blinked twice. Scotty Green. Jason, do you feel resentment towards Graham considering he assaulted a gay guy and never did hard time?
Okay.
At first I was really like, man, this guy busts my balls about, jail in 72 days. And I mean, I never killed a guy, especially never shoved any gay guy.
Oh,
so,
yeah. For the record, for new listeners, I got over it. Never shoved.
I got over it.
Never shoved anybody. Never shoved anybody.
I know. You kept telling the judge that too. It's weird. Izzo's no longer got to go. Couch, stay silent for 5 seconds if I've got this right about Jeremy Fears' shooter never being found. Fears knows that snitches get stitches, so he'll never name the perp to avoid getting 6 feet under.
Okay.
Well, that was 4 seconds.
Yeah, no. Yeah. What I know, I don't know firmly enough to report. So I'm not gonna. But I don't think what you're saying is entirely it. So I don't want to be silent here either. So I probably shouldn't have said anything the other day, but I'm a moron.
Oh my God, that was 5 seconds. Suburban man of leisure. What happens first? We learn who shot Jeremy Fears, or we learn about the crimes of Matt Weiss?
Matt Weiss.
Unbelievable. Hans, you're trying to make the alumni zone seem as daunting as the bad boy Pistons. Is that what you're trying to do?
The results back it up, though. You know what I mean? Like it's
true.
At this point, they're covering spreads by an average of more than 10 every year. Like at a certain point, they are. It's like having Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn slam the opponent's heads. Yeah.
Next one from Hans. Does the Carson Cooper, Jackson Kohler, and Zizman Zapala front line deserve a nickname? The White Cliffs of East Lansing, the Trio of Doom. Dale Davis and Eldon Campbell were called the Duel of Doom.
Yeah, I don't.
White Cliffs of East Lansing. I would go with that one. I like.
What was it? Jacks on, Jacks. Never mind.
Jacks on, Jacks off.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, that's not a catchy one. I get one thing. Hans, as gritty as this MSU team is, I don't feel they have the star power to make the Final Four. Am I insecure?
We don't know if they do or not, and that's part of what you'll discover in February in a big way. They haven't proven that. They really haven't. And they've beaten a lot of teams they're better than impressively. They look impressive. They're fun to watch. They have a lot of pieces that are intriguing and a lot of different guys who do different things at a very high level. But do you need that guy, or do they have quite enough? Because you can only play 5 at once, right? And we don't know. but they've certainly, like, that's a question now, though. Like you say, you don't feel they have the star power to make the Final Four. The question is, do they? And it's a legitimate question because they might have enough.
And finally, from Captain Sparty, why shouldn't I parlay the Lions and MSU to win it all this year?
I think you have to now. Because
why haven't you?
Right. Well, but here's the thing. Once you put that out into the ether, if you don't do it and the Lions and MSU win at those odds, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. You have to sprinkle a little bit of money. Just fire up the Firekeeper's iCasino and Sportsbook app, parlay MSU to win the national championship, Lions to win the Super Bowl, and just have that little bit of potential joy that you're rooting for. Speaking of joy, Groovy Donuts is here for you again. Go to groovydonuts.com. Swing by either location in Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamson, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., Thursday through Sunday. Just, look, it'll improve your weekend. It'll improve the people around you. They'll like you more. We appreciate Pure Options, and if you're still listening, I really, really hope you've got several MGs in your system. Midtown Brewing Company, we love you. We'll be back Monday and react to what happens in Northwestern in the week of the playoff games. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Room.